Hi guys. So we are back with India's largest mentorship conference, and we are going to be discussing today about product management and a whole lot of things in technical fields. Okay. So today we have a very special guest, and I'm just going to give you a very brief background about the guest. She's an amazing aspiring product manager, and she's studied in US. So yes, a lot of things are going to be there. But before that, let's start on the video. Let me show you what we are. So, Foreign Admits is an international study abroad platform where we help students connect to international alumni and mentors of their choice for getting a personalized guidance. And at the same time, we also connect them with the universities to get an authentic guidance. So we are trying to break into the area of mentorship. And 19th and 20th, we have India's largest study abroad virtual conference coming up with tons of amazing speakers. But that's not it. Today onwards, till 19th, we'll be going to have a plethora of amazing speakers coming every day and talking to you about niche specialized fields which you really wanted to break in but never had a clue how. Okay. Without further ado, let me play about foreign habits. So, yes, and after this, now I would really love to welcome without any wait our guest speaker for today. So, here we have Mandakini. So, Mandakini, hi Mandakini, how are you?
Very well, Nikhil. How are you?
I'm all good. So the
Thanks.
audience is pretty excited. I'm pretty excited. I was just giving them a very brief introduction to mentorship, to the conference which is coming up, to a little bit about the pre-context of what we are going to discuss, but I didn't reveal anything. So it's going to be absolute
Okay,
surprise. And
perfect.
yeah, absolutely. So where are you currently based as of now?
So I'm actually based in the US. I'm in Des Moines in Iowa, but I've been here with my family. I had there was a family situation, so I needed to be here. So currently, I'm with my parents in India at the moment.
Interesting, interesting. So that's really good to know. And so let's get on the flow. Let us make the user understand what are we going to discuss about. And after that, I would request you to give a brief introduction, and thereon we get the conversation started. So yes, guys, today we are going to discuss one of the most hot topic of 2020 and the coming years is product management. Okay, this topic is very close to me because as a aspiring founder, I'm also a small budding product manager on that note. And in this industry, product management is one of the booming fields as we see, and it has a diverse mix of a lot of things. I'm not gonna say what because that's where Mandakni's gonna throw a lot of information. But yes, how to get into this fields, what are the things that you should look at, and if you are bachelor students coming from any industry and any background, you can still get into product management. There's a good scope around that. So yes, without further wait, I would request Mandakini to give her introduction, and let the conversation start.
Thank you so much, Nikhil. So, hey, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. I don't know which time zone you're connecting from, so I hope all of you are doing well and staying safe. So, of course, by background, all of you know my name is Mandakini Gupta. By background, I have a degree in engineering from the University of Pune. And then I worked in India with two startups actually. One was both a sports-based startups because I am an athlete by passion, and also I had played field hockey for the state of Uttarakhand. Um, yeah, so having said that, I did a lot of business development for both of those, sports management companies. And then I moved on to the US in 2013 to pursue my master's. I did a dual specialization in business analysis and market research, and was also presented the Dean's Award for Academic Excellence when I was at Georgia State in Atlanta. And then I moved on to work as a process consultant with one of the leading healthcare insurance companies in the US, which is Blue Cross Blue Shield. And then I chose to be an independent consultant, working primarily as a business analyst and a process consultant before choosing to dive into transitioning into product management. It took me a while to understand what I really wanted to do because, it's only when you are in the midst of doing a lot of things do you realize what you like or what you don't like, and that's when you can really transition to be able to figure out what you actually want to do. And that's where I realized that I have this passion for building things, right? And one of my goals, of course, eventually is to be able to work for a computer hardware company, of course, where the same league that Apple falls into, where one can physically actually see things which are being built, and you then of course give it off to the customer. So yeah, that's a brief background about myself. Anything else that you'd like to know, Nikhil? Please feel free to ask me.
Absolutely. So let's understand a little bit about your education journey. How did you transition from here to US?
So, I of course did my engineering at University of Pune. I, specialized in electronics and telecommunication, which was something most people were doing a few years ago. And I was very clear about one thing, that I did not want to sit and code. For whatever the reason was, I just did not want to code. And having said that, the reason I transitioned to the US is because it wasn't something that happened overnight. It wasn't because people around me were going to the US or taking a GRE or GMAT and I went. But it was a dream that I had harbored in my life for a very, very long time. I went to a boarding school in Dehradun. And I think ever since I would say 1998, okay, I was very clear that US was the place I wanted to be at. Of course, just because I wanted to go there didn't mean I could go there when I wanted to. Because for a graduate program, I would say an undergraduate program in the US is extremely expensive, right? And uh, not every student who wants to go there at that time is funded, so on and so forth. So my transition was a little gradual. I finished my master's. I worked here in India, and then I decided that it was the right time for me to go. So of course, I took my GMAT. It did need some significant amount of preparation. Honestly, I was, I think, one of those cases who scored a 720 with less than 3 months of preparation. I don't know how I did it, but nonetheless, it happened, and that's how I moved. And I do realize that there is a lot of importance for having someone who can guide you. Something that I didn't have when I was going. So there were a lot of mistakes that I made on the way, which I could have avoided if someone whom I knew was already there, or someone who was here also who could have helped me out because they knew the scenario there or what could have been done. So I personally feel that getting that input at an early stage, even before someone makes a decision of which international country they want to transition to, is very, very important.
I think that's very important point that you brought up. Choosing a particular country or even a course or a career. Those early choices makes a hell lot of difference in how the career is going to pan out. So
True, and also because the fact of the matter here remains that there are multiple courses available, right? It could be an MBA program that I did. Most students typically go for a master's program, but there are a lot of master's program now which almost are equivalent to an MS in computer science. But like for example, in MIS, I would say that it's a course that gets done in about 12 to 16 months, but gives you the same opportunities that someone who's doing an MS in computer science would get. So there are a lot of permutation and combinations which can only be understood if you have someone who's there whom you're in touch with, and the person's willing to help you. Right, that's another caveat. Or you have someone here who's willing to help you. So yeah, it definitely makes a lot of difference.
Absolutely. That willingness to help, I think, is a bigger challenge for users because often LinkedIn is a good platform, but because of the social fear or certain issues, they don't get the help in time. So yeah, let's understand your challenges. If you can pick up a couple of important challenges that you faced and you wish other people should not be facing it, what would be them?
I think the number. So personally, I can say that fortunately I have traveled significantly across the globe. So whether it was a cultural fit or so on and so forth, now those basic intangibles, I did not really face any of those concerns. Yes, so one of my concerns definitely was about choosing the right city. And by right city, there's really no right or wrong city in the US. But I had an admit even from University of Boston. But one of the reasons I didn't choose Boston was because of the extreme winter weather. And going from India, never being exposed to such extreme weather was, I don't hate winter. In fact, I love the snow now. But it was something that a lot of people had asked me to be cautious about because it's not very easy to adjust, right? So I think just having an understanding of which city one is going to is important. Also, because it is always better to choose a medium to a large size city because job opportunities will be more there versus a very small city, right? So that definitely is there. However, I would say my biggest challenge came when I had to do my job search. That was absolutely my biggest challenge because how one needs to network when you are international versus what one does when you're in India is very different. Is very, very different. So that perhaps was my biggest challenge because, one being an international student in most countries, you do need a work permit of some sort to be there. So you've got to be able to identify which companies will sponsor your work permit, for how many years will they do it, how willing will they be, will they do it in a particular area that you have interest in or you have actually academically passed in or not. So I would say that was my biggest challenge, and it took some time before a lot of things could settle down. So for anyone who is looking to go and study internationally, I strongly, one of the things, one of the inputs I give a lot of people is be very cautious about the city that you're going to and be aware of the companies that either are headquartered there or even if not headquartered, have large job openings in their offices there. Because the last thing you want is you're in city A and you're trying to look, because it's a very small city, you're trying to look for jobs across the coast, and it could be in any country. So I think job search was my biggest challenge. I didn't really think anything else was, because in most schools you have like the Indian Student Association would help you out with accommodation and settling in and so on and so forth, and all of that just pretty much falls into place. It's not really critical, honestly. At least it wasn't for me. So yeah, but job search was. I definitely say yes to that.
Interesting. I think that's one of the bigger problem for international students. But yeah, job search is anyway going to be there a problem for everyone if no one doesn't plan in time. So that's something we can always talk a little bit more in depth. But yes, let's start from one of the most important topic that we are here for, product management. Okay, a lot of people get confused when they hear the term product management,
Mhm.
and they kind of think about it like it's like a tech, or is it like what it is. Okay, so wanted to understand from you, what is product management.
Okay. So, if I were to talk about from a broad term perspective, right, product management is essentially the ability to build a product from scratch and take it to a point when you take it to the market. That is exactly what product management is. And every product manager performs his or her duties in a very different manner. Uh, no, Nikhil, I'm not.
Okay.
So every product manager performs his or her duties in a very different manner based on the company that you are with. So the first thing that I want to bring to light here is that do not put product management into one bucket. So say for example, if a product manager is performing X duties at Amazon, that the product manager will perform the same duties at Google or will perform the same duties at a startup. No, they are very, very different because it also depends upon the nature of product, right? So I can give you a very quick example. So say, for example, if someone is working at Expedia, now what is Expedia's product? Expedia's product essentially is their website where we as consumers are going and we are going to go and understand what airlines are available and make the purchases as needed, right? So that is Expedia's front end. Now, as a product manager at Expedia, one needs to have some amount of UI and UX experience, okay, to be able to determine. okay, if I have the book button or the radio button on the top right hand corner, is that generating more leads for me versus if it is in the bottom left corner or if it is somewhere else on the page? Okay. So, to answer your question, Nikhil, whether it's tech or non tech, product managers fall into both categories. You do not necessarily have to have a tech background to be a product manager. The reason for that is because a lot of things that product management include is basically very intangible skills. It's teamwork, it's communication, it's empathy, it's your sense of ability to understand how do you need to speak with your stakeholders, what is the pricing going to be, is the go to market strategy going to work in line with the ROI that a particular team is looking for. Okay, now as a result of that, people management is the first and foremost skill and relationship building that an individual needs to have. Of course, tech will fall into place given as you move forward, right? And I'll elaborate more on that as we talk about the path one will take to product management. But in a nutshell, it really is about from initiation of a product right to delivery of the product to market. Uh, the product manager looks into everything that comes within this entire segment.
Interesting. Interesting. So, when we talk about, as you rightly mentioned, that it's not just about tech, it's the overall, user understanding, customer empathy. A lot of these things comes into the picture. Okay. So,
Right.
when we talk about terms, there is a direct relationship that we find with the skills or the knowledge of certain uh, traits or skill sets or technologies. So, what do you think for the graduate who looks to us, build his career or her career into product management? What are the skill sets? What are the core skill sets, and what are the skill sets which are more coachable skill sets someone could look at?
Do you, when you say coachable skill sets, do you mean like intangibles or do you mean like tech skills that you're?
I mean the intangible skill sets.
So let's take into account that someone is in a graduate program, okay, and it could be tech or non-tech because I know product managers who've come from advertising backgrounds. I know product managers who have come from finance backgrounds and have nothing to do with engineering whatsoever, right? Um, so let's look at it from a holistic perspective. Now, if I were to bucket it, so there'll be some people who are watching this webinar today who are uh, within tech schools, and there are some who are not. Okay, so let's address both their concerns. So if someone is within a tech school, of course, you can look at product manager roles which are within tech. Okay, and if you're not, then you look at product manager roles which are not within tech. Now, if you are within tech, one of the things I would strongly encourage is that build on your relationship skills, build on your communication skills, because you will need to interact with your stakeholders, and stakeholders, for everyone's information, are individuals who have requested for something to be built, a product to be built, right? So now, when that has happened, this is their requirement. They have a budget. They do not want to exceed that budget. More often than not, you will not be able to work in that budget. Okay, but you have got to handle it, and there will be a lot of last minute changes. So, one of the core skills for a product manager needs to be relationship building and communication. And communication in terms of the fact that it has to be very clear what. So, one of the things I always tell people is. A product manager, one of their key traits is to be able to understand what the stakeholders are saying, but be able to make sense of it from a perspective of what they actually need. So they may be saying a glass of water, but what they're not telling you is how hot it needs to be or what needs to be the weightage of the glass and the water, right? So there's a difference between the need and there's a difference between what is being said. So to be able to determine that gap, and there's no skill to find, it's not a gap analysis that we run. So there's no skill to be able to determine what that gap is. To be able to determine that gap comes from a clear understanding of being able to listen to what is being said and to be able to understand what needs to be the end product that needs to be delivered and how both of those fall into place. Okay. So from a tech perspective, absolutely, this is one skill. Second skills, I would encourage most people to, if you're doing it in your course, that's great. But if you could take classes on this, are, some data analysis and BI tools, because they are really the bread and butter for any product manager. Okay. I would say that SQL really is the uh, backbone of what most people do, because if a product manager has to interact with a business analyst or a data analyst, both of those individuals are going to be using SQL to be able to give them any sort of information. So while no one is telling the product manager that he or she needs to be an expert in SQL, but if I'm being given some input based on some data, if I want to verify that at my end, I need to have some knowledge, right? So having knowledge of SQL, or and a few data warehousing or BI tools like Tableau, Power BI, is always helpful. It's never going to do you any harm. It is always going to be helpful. And personally, I am a big fan of Salesforce. Okay, but again, it really depends on where it falls in, because Salesforce has a very different niche. So if you are looking to advance your career completely in the Salesforce environment, then you may look at doing various Salesforce courses. If not, starting off with SQL, Power BI, or Tableau is a good choice to make within tech. And for anyone who is from the non-tech background, honestly, I think over there, what one needs to understand is, again, if I'm talking about SQL and Power BI and Tableau, one doesn't need to be an engineer for that. These are tools which are seamless across the board, right? So even if you're from a non-tech background, you can get understanding, or if you're from a non-tech background but you have an interest in a particular industry, whether it's finance, whether it's tech, or whether it's banking and insurance, healthcare, whatever it is, identify that what do product managers do in that industry. Go to the job descriptions and find out, okay, what are the basic qualifications required, and that will give any human being a perspective as to, okay, considering I'm from a non-tech background, this is something that I should be focused on. Nikhil, you're on mute, so we can't hear you.
Sorry. So yeah, skill sets which we understand, certain parts in technology, people from a non-tech background may have to work a little harder than the engineering
Nikhil,
background.
I'm sorry, your voice is cracking up slightly, or I'm not
Okay.
able to understand what you're saying.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. It was just very choppy in between, so I couldn't figure out what you were saying.
Sure. So, for can you give some real life examples of like how the life of a product manager looks like, so that people can have an understanding what they have to deal with in
Okay,
in
sure.
department?
Sure. So just for confidentiality purpose, I will not be able to mention the name of the organization, but I was contracting with them, and this role was in the interest of a product manager. So that's the role I took up. And the requirement for the stakeholders who were directors and above, C-level executive and directors, their requirement primarily was that they needed to put a system into place that would collect data of employees as soon as an employee would actually join the organization, and as they would continue to transition. So basically, a CRM within the organization, with the end goal being that they will be able to identify or extract data for employees based on certain categories, which will help them make a decision for the succession plan. So basically, let's take, for because I cannot name the company, let's take its company X. So company X has a current sitting CEO, but they need to have a succession plan, in an eventuality, if the CEO cannot perform his or her duties, and who is going to assume that office, right? So they did not have a proper CRM in place to be able to determine what needed to get done exactly, and how this information needed to be collected, right? So as a product manager, my first and foremost activity that I had to do was I had to first identify and put into onto the calendar meetings with these stakeholders to be able to understand their requirements. And this happened with a team of business analysts because they were going to create, the business requirement documents, the functional requirement documents, the user stories, so on and so forth. But my role was to be there to be able to understand what their exact requirements were. Okay. Now, these requirements, of course, came in from a business perspective. Then sit down with the dev team, the QA team, the operations team to be able to translate this and tell them, okay, this is what we are looking to build. Does this have to be built from scratch? Do we have something existing in the system that we can leverage? Or do we need to get in a third party contractor altogether? Okay, so then of course that entire understanding, went into place to be able to figure out what it was. The next piece was to be able to do market assessments because, of course, uh, Company X was not the only company that was going to be looking at succession planning, right? Other organizations either were already doing it or were in the process of doing it. So to be able to understand that uh, what are the tools that they may be using or where do we stand a chance? Because sometimes when companies may not have a proper succession plan, then senior level executives may want to actually go off into another organization because they're not sure what their next step is, right? So doing a market assessment from that perspective as to where do we really stand and uh, what is our timeline, what is our risk tolerance, can this project go on for 6 months to a year, or we need to condense the timeline before we actually lose individuals who may go off to other organizations, right? um, so all this, of course, all this continued to happen, and that is when we reach a stage where we understood that SAP has an inbuilt HR CRM. Okay, and we had the budget to be able to implement that. However, it had to be customized because there were a lot of fields that were built into the SAP CRM, which was not required by this company. They did not want that data, right? So then that is when we got in touch with SAP's team, who was based out of Toronto, to be able to understand how this could be customized, and then build another team of developers here who could work with them. Now, amidst all of this, another thing that had to be done is, let's say, for example, Nikhil, you're an employee who's entering company X. Okay, do we give you a timeline within which you need to fill in all your data? Or are we going to keep it open till your first assessment cycle? Okay. Or are we going to keep it open up to the point where, you're going to have your first review, or you may be getting your first promotion? Or is that too late already? Because when you're getting your first promotion, it has to be based on, what your background is. And so one of the things that had to be incorporated, which SAP did not have and had to be customized, is the growth of the employee. Because when I am at my first review or I'm being offered my promotion, it has to be based on the work that I have done, right? So if I decide to fill out everything 48 hours prior to my promotion, the probability could be that I'm getting a promotion higher than I deserve or lower than I deserve. It could be either way, right? So of course, that was another thing that had to be looked into. And last but not the least, making sure that the budget that was given by the stakeholders was something that we could adhere to. Of course, there are multiple technical things that happen over here, which people who have worked in a particular environment called the agile environment will understand that you run the whole development in 2 week cycles. The product manager, of course, does not attend every meeting every day, but is aware of what is going on, right? And this information comes from someone who is known either as a product owner or a scrum master. But as I explained to you, right, we started off right from the initiation of the product, when the stakeholders told us that this is the need. We need a CRM which is going to capture data of every employee, and we need data to be updated every 4 months, every 6 months. So they need to have a hard stop there. Okay. Now, of course, we had to do a lot of interviews with even the employees to be able to check with them that how are they going to remember that once in every 4 months they're supposed to do this? Because hey, I cannot ask you to leave the organization just because you've not filled out the CRM, right? But we still need to have a method in place. It'll have to be follow-up emails, it could be, reminders that are being sent, whatever the case be. So from the idea of of what the product needed to be, right to the point of the fact where the SAP CRM was customized, okay, of course, and understood that, okay, what is it going to deliver? We understood that the employees were comfortable filling out this data once every 4 months. So at the end of a 12 month cycle, when they're actually going to be provided a promotion, there is enough data their manager or senior manager has to be able to make a determination of what needs to get done. And if this is happening, of course, this was more to do at senior levels. So then we also had to speak with executive assistants of directors and managing directors, because those individuals were going to fill it out. A director was not going to go into a CRM and fill out his or her own details, right? And then the most important piece, of course, in this project was about the fact that this information could be visible only to a very select set of eyes. So what were going to be the security protocols that had to go in? So, in a nutshell, this is what a product manager actually does: identifies exactly what the stakeholder is saying, what is required, and also make recommendations at times, because security was not something that the stakeholders really thought of. But I told them, I said, well, is this going to be visible for the entire organization? So the employee who joins today can see, where the CEO is or a director is, or do you want like a staggered? So security can even be staggered, right? Or it can be a completely time box thing that no, it will only be viewed by these 5 people, that's it. Or this level will be viewed by these 10 people, and this level will be viewed by these 5 people, and so on. So that is pretty much in a nutshell what a product manager does from beginning to end. So if you hear someone tell you that the product manager runs from one call to another, one meeting to another, please don't be taken by surprise, because there are times when a product manager does not have time to do his or her own work, but is just running between meetings and calls. So I hope that answers the question.
Absolutely, absolutely. Something which I could now relate to why my product manager is busy all the time. So that's very well said. So let's understand this in a little bit more from a student perspective. Okay. So what do you think as the resources or kind of courses student could look up to when they are getting into this industry?
Sure. So I actually have a number of resources noted down here.
Mhm.
So of course I can, because I'm based in the US, I can talk to you from that perspective. But a lot of the courses that I will mention, I do know that people in India are leveraging those courses as well. Okay, so it's not like it is only built for the US market. It is built for anyone who is looking to build their career in product management. Now, before I dive into what the courses and resources are, one word of recommendation that I'll give everyone is that, see, some of you who are viewing this webinar may be working. Some may still be graduating out of college. It doesn't matter what stage you're in. If you are not in a product management role as yet, okay, one of the things that you should definitely look at doing is, and even if it is pro bono, and by pro bono I mean that you don't get paid for it, okay? So even if it is pro bono, see if you can work with a smaller organization that may have some product needs. It will just give you an insight into what product management is, and you'll just get some hands-on experience. So either you will know that this is something that you definitely want to do, or you will know that this is not something that you want to do. And the reason I say this is because product management is one of the most respected jobs in the industry. Just like that, there is a lot of work that is involved. And like Nikhil mentioned right in the evening, it is one of the hottest jobs that people look for. But it is it is very difficult to crack a product management interview, and that is the reason that so many resources are available. But those resources again will help you only so much. You need to be able to put your own personality to it, which will come when you know what you really want to do. So if people would like to take notes, the first resource I would strongly encourage is called Exponent. Okay, so that is resource number one. You may want to follow a community on LinkedIn called Product Buds. It has been created by budding product managers, some of them now who are associate product managers, at large tech firms as well. Okay, so they have a lot of sessions that they do, which give you a perspective into the different stages of product management per se. Okay, the third would be hacking PM. Okay. Fourth definitely is product schools. Now, word of caution here, their courses are expensive. Their cheapest course is $6,000, which on today's rate is about what 420 4,20,000. Okay. And that is a course. You're not going to a full-time school. You need to understand that. So that is the reason that a lot of people take product school courses if they are in their early PM career. It just gives them a better perspective. Okay. But definitely a very, very good resource. Another one is a book called Inspired by Marty Kagan. And one person that everyone I recommend should follow is this young Southeast Asian guy called Clement Cow. He has a blog and yeah, Clement Cow. He has a blog and he writes about product management and just to get a perspective about what product management is and be able to understand whether or not what is being spoken about in product management is something that you're interested in. Clement is a great person to follow. So I would definitely say these 6 resources, and if someone wants to just understand what it takes to be a product manager, please look at the job descriptions of these roles because the qualifications will tell you what companies look for. So you should definitely do that.
Sure. I think I've noted most of these down. I've probably put everything in the comment so that people who are following can directly go to the resources.
Just one more thing. I know there's one more based in India. I believe it's called BrightGo. BrightGo? Something of that effect. I can't remember the name now, but I think that's what it's called. If I do, I'll let you know. So they're of course
For the people, we can definitely email them with all the resources curated by Mandana. So that's something I believe it's a good giveaway for all the participants who are attending and could take on the notes further. So coming to the closure before we take up the questions, what is the tip that you want to give to the aspiring product managers or product enthusiasts in their jobs and academics?
So, well, I don't think there's like a specific tip I can give, but one of the things that I will definitely say is that please be very aware of what is happening within the product industry. Okay, if you are absolutely clear that product is the way that you want to go after, there are 2 ways of actually cracking, your career in product. One is you take the associate product manager route, and there are multiple companies that now have associate product manager roles available, right? And they are very clear that one of the things that they want if you're applying for an APM role is that either you should be graduating that year or the following year. So if anyone who's listening to this webinar falls into that category and you are 100% sure that product is the way you want to go at, you must absolutely dedicate, consolidated time, if it's the weekend or could be 30 minutes a day, whatever the case be, to understand which companies are offering APM roles and what their requirements are, and whether you are able to fulfill those requirements via your academics, or you may need to do another course or something like that. Okay, that's one thing. The second is that you could always be at an analyst role at a company. It could be a data analyst, but preferably if you're a business analyst, your route to product management is a little more simpler, because as a data analyst, you'll perhaps get into more of business intelligence or even data science, right? So if you are if you already graduated, you do not qualify for the APM role, look at taking up business analyst roles at these companies, and be aware of which company you're applying to. Don't one of the mistakes that I made in the quest of just wanting to work was, okay, let's just work with any company. it works for a very short period of time, because if your goal is that ultimately you want to work in the technology sector, or you want to work with a large finance sector or healthcare, you need to have that kind of exposure. You have to be very, very clear and cognizant about the fact that, okay, I want to work at a Salesforce, so I need to build my career in this manner. You cannot just start working with some mom and pop shop and expect, okay, fine, 2 years down the line you'll be at Salesforce. It just doesn't work. It's unfortunate, but that's just the reality of it, right? So be very, uh, I would say, conscious and aware of the path that you are taking. So, just to finish off, like I was saying, so if you don't, if you are not in the running for an APM role because you may have already graduated or whatever the case be, it doesn't matter. Okay, make sure that the company that you're working at, if they have product managers, just go over and beyond and shadow some of those product managers. Now, in the virtual world, obviously, it's not possible to physically shadow someone, but just reach out to them and say, okay, is there something on your team that I could be a part of without disturbing your team? Could I understand how it's working? Yes, you're not going to be paid for it, but you're going to understand how product management works. And I do want to tell everyone this, that it is simpler to break into product management at a company that you're already working at versus interviewing for another company and saying, okay, I'm going to be a brand new product manager there. Because let's understand, as I had discussed, product managers about the product. So that is the company's baby, right? The product is what they are all about. So if there's someone within the organization and that person transitions to product management, that individual already knows what the company is doing, right? They don't have to get everything from scratch versus someone who's interviewing as an outsider. So even if it takes you an extra 1 or 2 years to get into product management, it's okay. But if you're already working, just make these tweaks. But most importantly, be very, very, very conscious about how you are charting out your career. Network with people, set up 15-20 minute calls with them. No one is going to say no to you. Okay, but be very conscious about that, because that is critical. Because before you know it, a lot of time would have gone, and you don't want that to happen.
Absolutely. I think initially the networking is going to be really crucial. And as you
Absolutely.
mentioned,
Just to give you a perspective, Nikhil, just to give you a perspective, okay, while I did work in that product management role, of course, it was a contracting role, so it was a shorter period, right? I had not yet transitioned my career completely to product. In June of this year, I spoke to 52 people. So you can guess the number I networked with. I spoke to 52 people, all either from senior product manager roles all the way to director roles, to understand head of product, to understand what they do and whether or not this is a field that I wanted to break into. So that was did it take me 52 people to figure out that yes, that's what I wanted to do? No. But talking to 52 people allowed me 52 opportunities where people could refer me to a role moving forward, which is very critical again, when you're applying for a job. So yeah, that's just something I wanted to add.
great. I think now we are all set. I think the audience is waiting for their questions. So let me first stream you the first question. So here's a question by Akash. How does engineering management and specialization work with product management?
How is engineering management? Yep. So honestly, I haven't done engineering management, so I do not know what kind of courses are covered there. But from the basic knowledge that I have about engineering management, absolutely, please go for it. You are doing engineering management, and then if you do a specialization in product management, that's perfect. But also keep in mind that if you are able to build some, projects on your own, uh, go to a website called Upwork, where you can get work for people. They'll pay you by the hour or whatever it is. See if you can build something, right? Because it's like, I always tell people this: for a student who has done fashion design, they do not get a job because they say I've done fashion design and I'm very good. They have to carry their portfolio with them. And same is with a photographer. He or she has to carry their portfolio with them, right? So the same thing is over here. When you are interviewing for a product management role, be aware that you have done something that you can show if need be.
Absolutely. So
Okay.
here's the
So yeah.
second question.
Is that the question, Nikhil? How can a
Yeah.
student from a tier 2 college get into product management?
Yep.
Okay. By tier 2, I'm assuming you're saying like rural area, right? No, the
Yeah. Some
suburban area.
private
Tier
colleges,
2.
they usually consider as colleges.
I'm sorry, what would you consider as a tier 2 college in India?
What we are discussing here, like there's tier one. Again, this is a very psychological mindset, but that's how it is. So tier one is usually IITs and NITs, and
Oh,
let's
okay, okay. Well, I didn't go to an IIT either, okay, guys. So I went to University of Pune, but again, see, I want to tell you this, that it doesn't matter which college you go to.
absolutely.
As long as you are aware that the courses that you are doing, you are completely aware of the fact that how you're performing. And one of the examples I can give you is I'm connected with this girl, Arunima Sharma. She's from a college in Meerut. Okay. And at the moment, she is an associate product manager with Salesforce in San Francisco. Okay. The reason I say this is because there will come a time in your life and in your career when the college that you graduated from will really not matter at all, because there was a time 10, 12 years ago perhaps when companies put out their job descriptions and they said, okay, you've got to be from an Ivy League college, a Harvard or a Stanford, or an IIT or a whatever, BHU or whatever the case be, right? But if you go and look at job descriptions today, they do not mention any school. In
Interesting.
my job search, I have not come across any job requirement that mentions any school. And the reason for that is because once we have finished whatever college we are going to and those academic courses that we took, our ability to perform in a job is no longer dependent on those courses. Okay. For example, a student who is in first year of engineering, you're doing engineering drawing. My educated guess is that if no one wants to become an architect, you're never going to use that ever again. Okay.
Absolutely.
So the courses that you do will not be what will determine your performance at your role or your ability to get a role. You having the skills that that role wants is what is going to matter. So someone could be from an IIT, but if that person doesn't have people management skills, or if the person doesn't have the basic ability to build relationships, he or she will not be a good for product management. Doesn't matter you're from IIT.
Yep.
Okay? So,
Absolutely.
so that is my answer to whoever asked that question. Do not worry about the college that you're going to. If product management is what you want to break into and you're 200% sure about that, look at the requirements of the roles and, become aware of what you need to do for that.
So I think this is the last question that we have.
Okay?
What approach one should follow to get into product management with 1 year of experience? They're planning to do MIS, which you spoke about.
Okay. So if you have 1 year of experience and you want to break into product management once you are in the US, so definitely if you look at your MIS course and if you can take up a few courses which focus on product management, definitely do that. And my educator's guess is that your MIS course, if you take admission fall of next year, which is July, August of next year, you will finish your course in December of 2022. Okay. So your goal when you reach the US next year or whenever you plan to do it, I'm just taking an example of next year. Okay. So if so suppose the individual gets to the US in July and August of 2021, he or she must start so that's from Vivek. So Vivek, if you get to the US in July and August of next year, you must start networking immediately, or I would recommend you to start networking even now. Your path should be to get an internship for the summer of 2021, which is the May-June period as a PM intern. or as an associate product manager intern, okay, and potentially convert that into a full-time offer. So that would be your best case scenario. Now, not all APM or APM intern roles can be converted into full-time offers, or sometimes it doesn't happen. That's perfectly all right. But your entry point will be as an associate product manager. That will be the title that you should look at when you're looking for jobs. And I can tell you that in August, there are 18 companies that opened roles for what is called a rotational product manager, which means that over a period of 18 months, you will rotate through 3 different disciplines and then, of course, pick one in that company. And one of the most famous, programs is by Facebook, which is a rotational product manager program, right? But Vivek, yes, absolutely, you will qualify for product manager roles. You should look at APM intern roles for summer of 2022, convert that into a full-time offer. And if, of course, if that doesn't happen, definitely the title of the roles that you should look for is associate product manager. You will find them across all companies, whether it's finance, whether it's healthcare, whether it's tech, you'll find them across everything.
Absolutely. So just before ending, there's one very interesting question which has come up, and just streaming the question here.
Can one build their career in both product management and project management, or should focus only on one? So, okay, so here's the point, right? Project management is basically, and I'm assuming that Yash, you have asked this question. You do have an understanding of project management. I'd hope so. But even if you don't, so project management is basically project management is an umbrella of product management. A product is getting built. It has various things that needs to be done. Okay. So each of those things that needs to be done is a project. So 5 projects will come together for one product. So if you are looking to be a product manager, you cannot also be a project manager, because so while you're managing 5 things, then you are talking about managing one sub part of it. So logically, it doesn't make sense. Okay. Also, roles and responsibilities of a project manager are very different from roles and responsibilities of a product manager. Okay. More often than not, you will find a product manager who is not completely specialized in a particular technology, because they don't need to be. Their goal or their requirement is not to be completely specialized in a particular technology. But a project manager will need to be specialized, and they will need to specialize most certainly in the agile scrum environment. Okay. And along with that, they will need to specialize on what is called vendor management, what is called change management, what is called resource allocation. Okay. Because a product manager is going to say the budget is $150,000. Each of the parts of this product are going to get $30,000. The project manager has to be able to figure out how he or she makes sure that their dev team, QA team, so on and so forth, completes it in $30,000. So if they need to cut a resource, if they need to add a resource, so on and so forth, that's what the product manager does. And a product manager manages this from a front end. So the career should be built in either or, not both.
Interesting.
But having said that, if someone has been a project manager and you are looking to transition to product, you will have a few transferable skills that are used in project management and are also used in product management. So then you just build up on a few more skills.
Interesting. So I think this is a fresher question. I would say one of the very early questions that we also discussed. I just need 30 seconds of yours in this question.
Sure. So Vedant, basically, it really depends. What I had said right in the beginning is, if you want to develop a few skills from a technology perspective, please focus on certain BI tools, which is either Tableau or could be Power BI or Looker. And from a data perspective, definitely focus on could be SQL and R and Python as well. But the non-tangible skills definitely are leadership, teamwork, people management, relationship building, empathy, emotional intelligence is very, very important for a product manager, which should be built early on.
Okay, perfect. So I think that's it. We came to the end of the session, and I believe there've been a lot of interesting questions. There's been something. My favorite was project management or product management because a lot of people want to be on the safe side, having at least two career options. So, but then it's rightly said.
Correct. So project management is a safe option from perspective that it's not tough to break into. If you have worked in the agile scrum environment for about 2 3 years, you can very comfortably break into project management. But I will not say the same for product management, because breaking into product is where the battle lies. Because then, wherever, whichever company you work at, then you can transition if you want to. But just to give everyone a perspective, I'm assuming that most people here are either freshers or just graduating from college, so I don't think you really have to worry about this right now. Okay. But I know people who are, product managers at Amazon, and they can't crack the Google product manager interview. So this goes back to my point that different companies, the product manager roles are very different. Just because you work at Amazon or a Netflix, to say that okay, Facebook and Google will be the same, that's not how it is, right? Because products essentially are different, from healthcare to finance to tech. So yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. So, just on the closing note, how do people get connected to you? Because a lot of people have asked also that how do we get mentorship about product management or breaking into product management?
So the best way to connect with me, honestly, is LinkedIn. That's where I am most active. And just when someone is sending me a request, you have that option of add a note. Please add a note, because otherwise I don't know why you're connecting with me, right? And being based in the US, of course, the larger part of my network is in the US. And I think for everyone who's listening to this webinar, when you are networking with people, make it a standard practice to write in that note why you're connecting with the person, because otherwise just sending a blind request, the person may or may not connect, right? They don't know who you are and why you're reaching out. So the best way to connect with me is via LinkedIn. And if you're already a part of foreign admits, I think you can come through them also, whatever the system is. So I'm good with either.
Absolutely. Yeah. She's also there on foreign admits. If you want to connect to her on foreign admits, you can probably connect to her on foreign admits also. But yes, LinkedIn is a very covered platform where you can easily connect.
It's quite simple. It just keeps everything in one place, and you can view
Absolutely.
my profile. I know who you are, so it's all good. Yes.
That's great. Thank you, Mandakini. I think this was a wonderful session, and this definitely sets the stage for the entire conference that we are going to have. We'd love to see you around in the conference, um, to be present there and share a word, guys. On 19th and 20th, we are organizing the mentorship conference, and Mandakini is a special guest who chose to inaugurate the entire conference and come forward as a volunteering mentor. And we are really, really thankful for her presence today.
Thank you.
So
Thank you very
yes,
much, Nikhil. I
don't miss
appreciate
out. Every day we will be having one special speaker, handpicked from huge amount of international student network that we have. And every day there would be really interesting sessions. But again, 19th and 20th, don't miss out. It's going to be only once in a year. And I promise you, it's going to happen again the next year, not in the middle of it. So you got to be there and you got to make most out of the things. Thank you, Mandakini. I believe it was an amazing
it.
experience.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nikhil. Appreciate it. Thank you.
So, guys, before we are ending this session, let me share with you some interesting insights of what you can do. Mm, Yep. I'm going to share with you a very interesting scholarship that we have launched, in the meantime, and it is going to be republished during the mentorship conference. The scholarship holds for $1 million for study abroad aspirants. I'm not kidding. This is $1 million, guys. And it's not been possible without the support of thousands of universities that we have worked with. So I'm going to share with you very, very interesting video to spend some time with. So I believe you guys know what the scholarship is going to give you. If not, go to blog.foreignadmins.com/scholarships. You'll be able to find out, or just Google Dream Big Scholarship. The scholarship is named Dream Big because we want you to dream bigger and achieve your career goals. I'm just going to end the today's event with what Foreign Admits does and a small teaser about Foreign Admits. Thank you, guys. Lovely having you on this panel. Love you all. Tomorrow, at the same time, we'll be having another event. So do subscribe to our YouTube, do like our Facebook page so that you don't miss out on the events that we are going to organize in the next span of 9 days.